You didn't fail. You're not behind and you're not late. You just might not be ready yet. And if that hits a nerve or feels a little hard to accept, then this conversation is for you.
If you've been carrying something that feels like failure, something that you thought would have happened by now, but it still hasn't materialized, and you can't quite figure out why, this very conversation might change the way you see it. So we've had a piece of paper sitting on our desk for the last 5 years, at least the last 5 years. Maybe actually this is going on 6 years.
I was going to say, we're getting close to 6 years.
Going on 6 years, had this piece of paper sitting on our desk. And honestly, every single time I looked at it, all I felt was failure. Like that paper represented failure at its core to us. But ultimately, that piece of paper was this podcast.
That's right.
That's what that failure was, is this podcast, which we didn't start until now. Here we are 6 years later after that idea first came to being, starting the podcast. So today we're going to talk about why it took so long. We're also going to talk about what we learned in that process and something I hope will help the listeners be able to maybe reframe the way they look at failure in their own lives and business journey, because I know it's been completely reframed for us.
Yeah.
So this is, though, also a welcome episode. This is our very first episode of our podcast. It's been a long road to get here, like I just started to mention, but so excited to be here. And before we jump into really that part of the episode and talking about this piece of paper that's felt like it's tormented me for years, I think it'd be really great to just talk a little bit about the podcast and what we hope to do through this, why we're hosting a podcast, what the listeners can expect when they join in with us. So we started this podcast because we wanted to be able to talk about things beyond photography. Things beyond the camera, things beyond what we have had our identities wrapped up in for a lot of years, which was being brand photographers, building a photography business. And like we talked about in the intro, like there's a whole lot of education out there in this space about how to take better photos, about how to compose and how to frame. There's tons of education in how to run your business, how to price, how to market, how to build a website, how to do all of those things. But I think all of those things even done really, really well and at a high level, fall flat if we don't address the really big thing about being a personal brand, which we are as photographers, which is you, the person behind the brand, the person building the business. And so much of that gets overlooked because we focus on strategy. We focus on how-tos. How to operate our camera, how to take better photos, how to position ourselves in the market, how to get new clients in, how to price for those clients, what the customer journey looks like. But then it's like in the process, and I know we've experienced this too, if we're not investing in who we are as human beings and the person God put on this earth to run this business and steward this business, then you really can get to a point where you look back years later and go, all this hard work and effort to build something, what was it even for? And who did I become in the process?
Yeah. And I think that's what puts the heartbeat behind what we're doing and like why we're like, let's step into another thing that we don't know anything about, is because after a decade of doing this, and then after however many years it's been of teaching photographers, we just see too many photographers. We don't see enough people and who they are, and just fully confident stepping into who they are, not hiding behind that photographer title, that photographer wall, that photographer just like lens. And
Good
that
pun.
that's thank you. That's what's like making us so passionate about having a podcast that truly goes beyond photography, beyond the camera, beyond portfolios, beyond everything that we could actually build inside of a business.
Yeah, so we're really excited about Beyond the Camera. We're excited to be able to bring this. And, what you can expect, I guess we've realized we do a lot of life kind of differently. We're a little bit of weirdos.
We're so different.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't think anything we've ever shown truly begins to peel the curtain back, except for those like in our immediate circle that just get us and like, yeah, they do things, they do it different.
But okay, so we homeschool our kids. We're homeschool parents. We run a business together and have since 2016. So for 10 years, we've been business owners together, which means we work together every day. We parent our kids together every day. We're together as a family every day. And we get a lot of questions about like, how do you make that work? How do you make marriage and business work? How do you work together with your spouse and not want to just like totally lay them out and be like, How do you homeschool your kids? So we're going to get into some of that on the podcast, I'm sure. We're also going to talk to past clients and people that have really impacted our lives in different ways that we'll be bringing on the show. But really, the heart behind all of this, like we said, is to really speak to you as the individual, you as the person, and who you're becoming in the process of building your business and how you can grow, just like you've invested time and energy and resources in growing your camera skills and growing out the business back end and workflow in your business, how you can become the best version of yourself so that you can fully step into your purpose and not just build a successful business, but build one that makes an impact, leaves a legacy, and really accomplishes what you're meant to do on this earth. So we're excited about the podcast. That's what you can expect. But I want to bring this back around to what we led here with, which was this piece of paper right here. This piece of paper, the ink is even fading from this now.
Wow.
This was out of my Moleskine journal.
I'm sure it has like some tear stains on it.
It's a little wrinkly. Yeah, but this piece of paper, I remember exactly where we were. We were at a cafe.
The coffee shop.
The coffee shop.
In Agrotopia in Gilbert, Arizona.
Yep. And we were brainstorming. How are we going to grow our business? How are we going to create content on a regular basis? How are we going to do all these things? And we masterminded this.
Yeah.
I mean, this was it. From the very beginning, we said, okay, this is our plan. This is what we execute on. This is how we do the thing. And so that was 6 years ago now.
I can still feel you like in that moment, like you pushed away from the table, like, all right, let's get up, let's go, let's execute. We've got our plan. It's right here on paper. It's time to go. It's
time to go. And that's the mode we were in.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the thing is at that point in life, things were really crazy. I mean, that was 2020. So the world was crazy. That was happening. But things were also really busy. I mean, we had a ton of clients. Our photography business was booming. We were having some of our biggest mountaintop moments in our photography career at that point. I mean, we were shooting with Chicago White Sox. We were shooting with celebrities. We were shooting with household brand names, like all these amazing things happening in the photography business at that point. And I remember we had our whole business workflow was a whiteboard in the office. So everything just felt like hair on fire all the time. So we're busy shooting all the time. We were building our business. We were also building education because we had photographers asking us, how do you guys do this? How are you working with brands? How do you price for brand work? How do you style these things? So we were building out education, which was essentially building out a completely new business. We were, then also parenting our 2 kids through COVID, where the world shut down. So we were busy parenting in the process. And, this piece of paper was great, but the friction point was the reality is like we had no time.
Right.
We had no time for this.
It was like so far out of reach from our current reality that it was like, why did we just even take the time mapping this out? Because none of this is doable. None of this is even approachable. We can't start on any of this. Like it just was kind of one of those, this is too good to be true. This is a vision and a picture of a future we can't even see for ourselves.
Yeah.
Which I think is why every time we saw it, we're like, well, there's just a failure sitting there because it's a great plan that we can't get to.
That's it. Because since we had no time, it meant that this sat there next to my desk where I'd see it every day. And I'd every single day, instead of seeing possibility, instead of seeing what could be or what was in the future, all I saw was failure every time I looked at this paper. And I remember year after year, at the beginning of the year, we'd game plan the year. And I'd be like, this is the year. We're going to make this thing happen. And I mean, year after year, you would lovingly tell me like, how do you think that's going to actually happen?
I think I was going to say, I even remember being like, don't bring up a podcast to me. Like, that's not even attainable. Like, this just feels like an added stressor to think about a podcast. Like, you would bring it up and I'd kind of laugh. I'd be like, this, like,
what
okay.
a dummy.
Like, this is not going to happen.
Yeah. But for good reason. For good reason. And so, yeah, think about that. I mean, for 5, almost 6 years, this piece of paper represented failure to me. Every single time I looked at it, it didn't feel like possibility. It just felt like, yeah, I failed. So fast forward a handful of years, 2025, a lot of things in life have changed. We're now living in Florida. We're hosting retreats, which means life didn't get less busy. It's more busy. We're hosting photographers here in 30A in a big beach house. And one of the things that we did with all the photographers at the retreat is we said, we want you to set a tangible marketing goal, and this group is going to hold you accountable to that goal. And it was awesome. I mean, everybody was like spitting out their marketing goals. We were taking notes. And then they did something I didn't see coming
But
in
I'm
any
so
way, shape, or
thankful
form.
they did do. Like, I'm so thankful for that group of people sitting in the room with us, to see us as just people sitting in the room with them right there, to do exactly what they did, which was to flip the script and say, hey, like, what about you guys? What are you going to speak and share with us? And, just admit out loud that you want to do a big goal that you have.
And I think when they did that, I don't know if you felt that way in the moment fully or
Thankful?
not. Yeah,
No, I
or were
felt
you
on the
like,
spot. I was like, what? Wait a second. Hang on.
this
I
isn't
thought I
supposed to
was
work this
supposed
way?
to hold you accountable for something. Yeah.
And then I think when I opened my mouth to answer the question, yeah, I think you probably didn't feel too thankful in that
No,
moment
I
either.
didn't, because I was like, you're seriously going to bring up the thing that we can't do. Like the one thing we're not even close to. But I knew it was coming. So no, in the moment, I was not grateful.
Yeah. But I announced to that whole group that we were going to start a podcast. And one of the questions wasn't just like, what's the marketing thing you're going to do, but like to set a deadline. And I don't remember the deadline I gave it. Was it like 3 months or 6 months?
Yeah, it was like by the fall.
Yeah, by fall. And so with the most ambition and best intentions ever, as we're holding our students accountable, I sat down with our good friend Lane, who does podcasting for a living. That's his lane. Dad joke.
That's a good one.
Thank you.
He was in his lane.
He was in his lane fully, helping me just understand, like, how does this work and what do we need? And I got the software to do this. And we sat down with Christy, our amazing Christy, our assistant.
Our amazing
Christy. That's her official title, the amazing Christy. And we game planned this, and we built processes, and we had a plan. But obviously, it still didn't happen, because here we are in 2026, just now getting our podcast off the ground. And so if I'm honest, like all year last year, every time I thought about this podcast, all I kept feeling was the same thing I had the previous 5 years, which was just failure. Failure. This represents failure for me as an individual, as a business owner, as just a human being. Across the board.
I think it was multiplied by 12, because then we had those 12 people checking in and asking. And then it was like the time they check, like, thank you for checking, but gosh, no, we've failed again. Like, it's not ready. It's not there.
Yeah. And in that season, I mean, okay, it's failure again. Not only did we still not have the time, but I think looking back, one of the really interesting things as I look at it is like in 2020, when we put that plan together, there was a big part of us that still had a lot of growing to do. I mean, we're always growing. We'll always continue to grow. But if we had started a podcast in 2020,
Ooh.
I don't know how helpful or anything it would have been. I mean, I don't know who would have wanted to listen to it.
For us personally, there was a lot. There was a lot that was just like so glaringly obvious that no, this is not the right time.
We were still like chasing success with everything that we did and every decision we made. We were still, even though we had become more of ourselves in the process, we were still trying to fit this mold that wasn't 100% us. Mm-hmm. We still cared way too much about everybody else and what they thought about us. We still really tied our worth to our accomplishments and the things that we could say we had done, which meant that if things didn't work, podcast, all we felt was failure, which just like multiplied through our lives and the way we viewed ourselves. Like there was so much in 2020 that was not healthy, that needed work, that needed refining, that, I mean, that just would have been, that never.
Well, and think about it, trying to show up to help people coming from truly such a broken and needing some growth kind of place.
But our identity ultimately was completely wrapped up in photographer. Like that's how we viewed ourselves.
Yeah.
And if you pulled that Jenga block out of the Jenga tower, everything would have fallen.
It would have felt like everything crumbled. Like if photographer was removed, it would have been like, what are we doing? What are we standing on? Like, who are we? What are we doing? Where's the focus? Like, where did all of that go?
Photography puns for days. This is great.
This is good.
But then fast forward to 2025, we sit down with that group. We have the best intentions. But even then, the vision that we had when we talked about the podcast and what we started to build out, it's nothing of what we have right now.
Yeah, no, I remember after you worked with Lane, I was at the beach with some friends and you rode your bike down and you had like, it's like you had to come to me ASAP and you're like, listen, this is what Lane and I like, what he helped us map out. And we felt so excited in the moment. It felt great. Like the name was awesome. Like it totally worked for our business, what we had built. But looking back, it's like, oh, we were so at the center of all of that vision. Like it was you and I that would have been highlighted in the midst of it. And in that moment, I don't think we recognized that.
We didn't recognize it, and it was a cute name,
Mm-hmm.
and it was, it was really fun and punny, which obviously I love good dad jokes. Like it all fit. It wasn't a dad joke, but it all just fit
It
and was
worked.
punny.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, like that was really the substance of it. And yes, the heart behind it was tell stories and share things, but we were at the center of it, which was
Mhm.
the big miss. And so yet again, here we are standing at the precipice of just absolute failure because this thing doesn't get off the ground. Then in the middle of that, and I promise we're going to get to the good part, but in the middle of that, we decide let's launch a coaching program
Mhm.
because we really felt this calling to speak to the very things we're talking about today about just like who you are and what your purpose is and the person behind the business.
Mhm.
And so we set out to create this coaching program. We went through all the process of mapping everything out and laying out the marketing and really speaking to the things we wanted people to understand that this program was built to do, and had a lot of great conversations with photographers. Super pumped up about those conversations. The message resonated at such a deep level, and ultimately one person
Mhm.
registered for the program.
So,
Failure again.
I was gonna say that's what that equaled to us was a failure. But then it was like, oh, Erica and John have grown because we quickly realized, like, whoa, 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 hang on, pump the brakes. We are done labeling everything as a failure because at this point it was like, okay, where's our attention getting grabbed? Like our attention, something's got a hold of it because we are psyching ourselves out to literally think everything is a failure. Like, let's look a little deeper. Let's focus in on where we're at right now and figure out like, is this actually a failure? And that's when it became crystal clear. I remember we were sitting in our living room. It was like, oh my gosh, this is what it was meant to be all along. Like,
Yeah.
this is not a failure. This
Yeah.
is not supposed to be a coaching program.
Well, in that season, what we didn't have visibility to either was what was going to lie just ahead for us. Because had we booked that coaching program out, we would have been going through one of the most emotionally challenging seasons of our lives. Really hard life season mixed with very little bandwidth. I'm now baseball coach and soccer coach and worship leader outside of what we do in our business. We had very little visibility to if not no visibility to those things being on our radar. And reflecting back, it's like, oh my gosh, could you imagine if we were trying to host a coaching program with all of those things happening? Like us showing up to pour into people for who they're meant to be and the way they show up in business when we're just barely crawling out of bed to show up in our own because of the things we're walking through. Like it would have been so disingenuous. It wouldn't have served people in the way, and not because our hearts were disingenuous, but just like because of the season we were walking through and the growing we had to do.
There was nothing
It wouldn't
extra
have
to
resonated.
give. No. Yeah, it would have been a challenge. And I still believe you can pour out from a place of difficulty and pain and high emotion, all that kind of stuff. Like that's a part of your journey and you still have purpose in it. But being able to have shown up as our best, I mean, no, that was not
That would
that
not
was
have been
not
it.
something we would have had the capacity for.
But looking at that now, not only do we have that perspective looking back of like, oh my gosh, could you imagine if we were hosting that program right now and how difficult that would have been through some of the things we walked through? That process ultimately gave us a gift.
Yeah.
That process ultimately gave us the name for this podcast. It gave us the perspective shift we needed to create this. It gave us the message. It gave us the direction. It gave us the clarity of how this wasn't meant to necessarily be a coaching program. This was meant to be the focus of the podcast.
Yeah.
Because that program was called Beyond the Camera.
Yeah.
And here we are, not with the old version of the podcast that we created last year, but with a brand new version, laser focused on the things we really want to show up and serve people with. And I think, that's the beauty of that reframe, is something that represented failure for us for a very long time actually became a gift. It became a gift.
And I remember standing in the kitchen and I was like, wait, hang on. We're recognizing that like this isn't a failure. We just got to figure out like what this is because there's something in it. And while it looks like a failure, there's something we got to search for because like it's coming. And I remember going, I'm even like jealous of the name of this coaching program. Like this is not meant to be a coaching program. It's meant for something more. And then you just were like, is it the podcast? And I remember they're standing there going, wait, but we have such a cute name. I even said, like, it's so cute. And it's
Yeah.
so just like, it's us for, and then that's when it clicked again. We're like, you're right. That old name was for us. Beyond the camera is not, because beyond the camera is meant for us, but it's meant for every listener tuning in, because as photographers, again, like that's just simply something that we do. But beyond that, there's like so much purpose.
Yeah.
And that's when we started to see like, okay, this is not a failure. Like this truly is, like you just said, like this is a gift for us, and this is direction, and this is answer, and this is purpose for a 5 to 6 long, road that we'd been going down to figure out, like, where does this fit in?
And I think that's the big question. Actually, that's the big takeaway is, if you're listening and you're walking through a season where it feels like, all you've got is this little piece of paper that reminds you of failure every time you look at it, like where it feels like everything you touch falls apart. You can't seem to get anything across the finish line. It just, you've got this thing you've been wanting to do that you just can't seem to get there, and it feels like failure and it makes you feel like a failure. What if there's actually a reframe available in that? What if it's not failure? What if what you would call failure is actually protecting you? Like, what if it's protecting you, your time, your energy, your emotions? I mean, those things were definitely protected from us
Yeah, well,
as
for
in this
sure.
journey.
Yeah, no, that failure 100% was protecting me from my emotions and from things I was headed into that I couldn't see. Like, there's no way I could have prepared for that season we were going into. And that's when I get to look back and I'm like, God, thank you that you have foresight that I don't have. It didn't make sense in the moment. It felt like a failure in the moment, but good night. That was protecting me personally for a season I was headed into that there's no way that I could have known.
Yeah.
And to look back, I'm like, wait, now I'm so grateful for this failure. Like it was there for me. It was looking out for me, which what we know it to be is just the Lord and the way that he has his hand in every single detail. And in the end, it's like, oh, looking back now that makes sense. Looking back, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, thank you. This is so helpful to know and to see. But that's true for everybody. No matter what it looks like that's a failure right now, we have experienced and fully believe there's something in there for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so it's protection of those things. It's preparation. Failure can just be a process of preparation for you,
Yeah.
helping you really get to a point where you can execute on whatever that thing is at the level you were meant to. Sometimes we're given an idea or a vision or a dream, and it, naturally we just think like that's now, like that needs to happen now. And this is something I get to grab onto today. But a lot of times there's a journey in that process. I mean, you look at any story, whether it's, heroes in the Bible or just like even any, fiction stories, hero journeys. Like there's always this period of refinement that they have to go through where there's this, oh, you're going to be something great. This great thing's going to happen. And it's just like things just seem like they just keep adding up to stink, right? It's not like instant success. It's just like failure after failure after failure after failure. But in that process, there's refinement. There's preparation for the ultimate end part of the movie, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like hero defeats, the bad guy and gets the girl and, lives happily ever after in their purpose. It's like that part of the process, the training, the rejection, the failure in that part, the embarrassment, whatever it is all a part of that journey. And I think, even as I'm saying that, I'm remembering like it's like a movie's flashing back in my head of all of the moments of complete and utter embarrassment, even for us, not necessarily in this podcast journey, but in our business journey as a whole. I mean, the times we've tried to do things, like everybody sees the things that work. Nobody sees the stuff behind the scenes that were absolute failures that are just embarrassing.
Yeah.
Nobody sees the mini sessions we set up for and set up backdrops for and broadcast everywhere and took a huge leap of faith on partnering with another vendor, and nobody showed and the wind ripped the backdrop and we went home and we had scheduled stuff for our kids and had people doing us favors. Not a single dollar came from that. Actually, it was like negative because
it was an expense.
Yeah, it was an expense and it was embarrassing and egg on our face is what it felt like in the process. Like nobody sees that stuff. Nobody sees the photos we've taken that were absolute flops that we had to spend hours in Photoshop like making work because there was no redo, and oh my gosh, we should totally be better than this by now. Oh my gosh, we should totally know how to operate our cameras. How in the world did we let shutter speed get so low? Right? And nobody sees that stuff, but ultimately all of those things have served us as I look back too. I mean, nobody showing up to mini sessions made me realize that, like, you know what? The thing I was most afraid of when it actually happened, we went home kind of bummed for a little bit, but then kind of laughing about it.
Yeah. Truly woke up the next day, carried on, continued to grow a business, and went on knowing like, okay, well, now we just learned from that. And we did though, like looking back at brand mini sessions that we like created, I'm like, oh my gosh, like those were pumping. Those were some of our absolute favorite things on mini session days, but it didn't come without
Didn't come from that.
a whole lot of just like humble, refining growth, just the suck of it that we had to go through to get there. And I mean, we're talking to a ton of photographers. So it's like, yeah, you have to remember the rejection to a photo shoot in the moment probably felt like a really huge failure. But looking back, I'm sure you can pinpoint a specific shoot where you're like, there is no way I would have been ready to show up and shoot that session because something happened, whether it required more talent, required you to show up on a day where you weren't going to be at your best. Like there's just so many things to be able to look back and go, that failure was not that. It gave me the opportunity to grow and to have that time to be refined.
Yeah.
Which doesn't feel good. I mean, it hurts.
It doesn't feel good. And this isn't about denying the fact that it doesn't feel good.
No.
It doesn't feel good. But I think we're presented with an option then at that point. We can look at it as failure. We can let it speak that over us every time we look at it. Like I did this piece of paper for years. Like you can let that thing become a representation and a figure of failure that reinforces that idea over you every time you look at it or every time you think about it. Or you can do the hard part of reminding yourself of truth and reframing that and just looking for like, okay, how is this ultimately serving me? Because if I believe it's ultimately going to serve me in some way, then like instead of sitting and just ruminating on what didn't work and how you failed, sit there instead. Spend all that mental energy getting curious and imagining how that's going to serve you in the future. That completely changes your outlook, and it also completely changes the attachment you let that experience have to you as a person.
Yeah.
Because rather than sitting under, I'm a failure, you're sitting under, hey, this is preparing me for something really awesome. This is going to serve me. And I can't wait to see what that thing is because I know it's going to be even greater than however great I thought this idea was.
Yeah. Well, and I think, I mean, what we said, 5.5 to 6, going on 6 years right now. So it's like, what we would want to be able to say to everyone listening is like, learn it. Because if you continue to avoid it, if you continue to say, oh, that's a failure. Oh, I'm a failure. This was a failure. You're going to continue to get those opportunities to learn what you're supposed to learn in those failures. And it wasn't until this past fall when we had those revelations and it finally clicked and we're like, wait, this is not a failure. This is redirecting us. This coaching program that didn't work for anybody that we really like were set out to have for it, it was just redirecting us. Like if we wouldn't have got to that place, I believe we would still come to a point where it's like, we have to learn it. And so now being able to look at that piece of paper, it's just like, thank you for protecting us from trying to show up when really all we were doing was chasing success and this facade that was not us. Thank you for protecting us this past fall when we thought like it was time to hit go. Lane helped us. Lane got us in check. Like he lined us out. Thank you for protecting me from a time where my emotions would not have been like better. It would not have been helpful, would not have been healthy had we done it. And so I just think that's the encouragement is allow yourself to get to a point of learning the lesson and where you're at and the failure that you feel like you might be in. Because I really believe once you learn it, you're going to have the moment like us right now sitting where we're like, this is it. Like, this is the paper. This is the podcast and it's here.
It's here. There's a verse in scripture that I think I really love. It's also one of the hardest to live out ever. It's James 1:2. It says, consider it pure joy, brothers and sisters, when you encounter trials of various kinds. And that's something I have to remind myself of a lot because when we're in those situations, when we're feeling like, oh my gosh, all I feel is failure all around me, nothing's working, everything's broken, whether that's in business, whether that's in life, whether it's in all of them at the same time, it can feel like one of the hardest things to do of like, well, I'm still going to be joyful. Cause I think the disconnect for me oftentimes is I'm like, so am I just going to lie to myself then? Like everything's on fire around me and I'm just going to be joyful. That feels
Yeah.
disingenuous.
It's fake.
Like feels like I'm faking my way through this and I'm not about that. But I think that's a miss, right? It's like what we're talking about is the way to apply that. Do I sit under the trial? Do I sit under the failure and just ruminate on that? Gosh, this stinks. I can't believe we haven't gotten this across the finish line yet. I can't believe that didn't work. Can't believe nobody showed up. Can't believe we haven't started the podcast for 6 years. It's just been sitting on a piece of paper. Or do we look at it and go, man, we tried to do this thing and nobody showed up and the backdrop ripped and it was pretty embarrassing. But man, I wonder if there's something in this for me. I wonder what this is going to lead me to. Like, what's this going to develop in me? What is this teaching me? Like, I don't know what the answer to that question is for you, whatever it is you're walking through. I don't know what it's trying to teach you. I do know that if you allow yourself to ask that question, though, and you sit with it, you're going to get a whole lot closer to an answer than where you are right now. And that answer is going to be different for everybody. But there's a quote, one of our mentors, Brad, he shared this with me. I also wrote this down and had it near this paper on my desk. But he says, fear is imagination undirected. Faith is imagination directed. So point your mind to the truth. And it's like, that's so good. That's what we're talking about here. Do I sit under this and go, everything stinks? Do I point my mind towards fear? Or do I lean into faith and direct my mind and tell it, no, this is what you can think about and see what that leads me to?
Yeah, well, and I think that's how we can apply James 1:2 to all the situations. Is like to consider it joy doesn't mean you're not sad. It doesn't mean you might not be angry or ticked off or
need
frustrated.
To cry it out for a second, that's okay.
I'm surprised I haven't cried yet. I'm a crier. Yeah, you might have to do that. You might have to sit in the feelings and process like, what the heck? Like, this isn't right. Like, I don't like this. This actually sucks. It's like, oh, you have to get to that point because we're real. We're humans. But I think the joy part comes from, but even still, there's something here for me. Because if this is a part of my journey and I have a purpose, something's going to come out of it. It's not as quick as I'm wanting it to be, but that means I need to be refined. I need to grow. So now I can actually embrace this failure. I can embrace this low. I can embrace this valley and figure out what's in it for me. I think that's how we've learned to apply that while being very real and just in touch with where we're at and in the reality of what things look like.
Yeah, ultimately the joy is found in the fact that you know that the trial produces something in you, right? It's like the joy is not circumstantial. It's in the fact that you have confidence this is going to produce a greater outcome in me at the end of the day, which is what the mindset shift is all about.
Yeah.
So, I just want to, I guess, encourage you that are listening, like whatever it is you're walking through right now that feels like failure, ask yourself that question. Like, you have to be willing, first of all, to get curious enough about that to ask yourself the question in a genuine way. If you're not, then we're not going to get anywhere with that. So maybe that's step one. Get yourself to a point where you're actually at least open to the possibility that asking yourself that type of question and looking at failure in a different way could yield a different result. And I think the quickest way to get there, to be open to the possibility, is to look back at life. Because I guarantee if you look back at life, you can see seasons where there were things that in the moment seemed negative, in the moment seemed like failure, in the moment seemed like adversity, that ultimately served you for a purpose. Perspective is one of our greatest teachers because it's really hard to, we can't predict the future. So it's hard to know what's around the corner and how something's serving us. But we can very easily look back and start to connect dots and say, wow, that didn't happen the way I wanted it to because this was supposed to happen. So begin to just look back at life and say, where have I seen this play out and be true in life before? And then hopefully that gets you to a point where you're open enough to say, okay, then with what I'm facing right now, with the failure that's in front of me right now, whether that's in your business, your photography business, maybe it's clients not booking, maybe it's, new pricing you've put in place and you feel like it's scaring everybody away. Maybe it's a new marketing thing you're trying that you can't get your mind around. It's a new tech thing. It's a new camera thing, whatever the thing is that feels like failure to you, or maybe it's in life. Maybe it's as a parent, maybe it's as a spouse, whatever that looks like for you that feels like failure. And that's the constant message you're getting. Remembering with that perspective of looking at the past, how failure has served you in the past before, begin to just ask yourself, like, how could this possibly be serving me moving forward? And I think what's really unique is you see, if you're willing to make that shift and ask yourself that question, rather than sitting in the negative, you begin to almost have your antenna up higher to be able to see as that serves you faster.
Yeah.
Rather than having it be this revelation that hits you a year later, you're like, oh my gosh, is this working in my favor? And I didn't even realize it. But now, like, because I'm looking for it, I'm starting to see it. Like, you see it faster.
Well, and unfortunately for us, it took 5 years for us to start to see that, for us to start to see like what we were beating ourselves up over. We had to like, that's why I'm saying learn it quick, learn it quick, because it was as if the circumstances like grabbed us by the shoulders, which I do truly just believe in God's goodness. He was like, slow yourself. There's something here. And when we finally did that, it felt so exciting because we didn't look at ourselves. What was it? September, October, whatever it was, standing in the kitchen. It's like, we're not seeing ourselves as failures. We're seeing the clarity we've been looking for, the wisdom that we're wanting. And it took us a long time to get there. And by a long time, I mean, that was 5 years in the making, 5.5 to finally get to that spot. And here we are this long later living in it.
Here we are this long later living in it. And I know we need to wrap up, but I just also have to be honest and transparent with the people listening that 5 minutes before we recorded this episode, I still let come out of my mouth, I just feel like I'm failing everybody because this is brand new. We've never done this before. You know, there's a lot to learn. There's a lot of new tech. We sat down. We were supposed to record this hours ago. We've got kids waiting on us to be done. I've got other work to do. I've got a soccer game to coach tomorrow. Then I lead worship. Then we go out of time. We didn't get more bandwidth in our schedule.
No, that's the thing. Is like,
right? Like the thing holding us back from the beginning, we didn't get more of that.
Right.
We just became different people.
Yeah.
In the process. Yet, there's the temptation still. I mean, I was on my knees over here trying to make some tech stuff work, just saying like, Eric, I just feel like I'm failing everybody. And you just had to remind me of truth. Said, hey, you're doing a great job. You're doing your best for everybody. You're going to figure this out. It's going to be great. And there must be something, you said this, there must be something really big that this podcast is going to do that it seems like it's been such a difficult journey to get it across the finish line. Because before that, I spilled an entire cup of water all over the set here. And
the rug's probably still
wet.
Yeah.
And before that, there was other issue. I mean, it's just been issue after issue all day long. But that's it in practical application right there. You said there must be something really big that this is supposed to accomplish to where this feels so difficult. And, I'd be lying to not admit that this was still a struggle up until 5 minutes before we hit record.
And we have to admit that because that's the thing. We would set people up for failure. I don't know if that's a full circle kind of thing for this conversation, but we really would set them up for failure if we're like, look for the day that it all falls into place.
We're here.
It's all perfect. It's easy. And it's still not hard because that's not the truth. Like what we said earlier is in 2020, we were busy with our business. We were busy as parents. We were busy just in life. Like none of that is different. Like your circumstances will likely be very similar, but what you have to do is stop and look in the mirror to how you've changed. Cause like that's the differentiator. Like truly it's what got you up off your knees down on this laptop. There's a laptop on the floor right here. It got you up off your knees to say, we're going to do it. And yeah, maybe we had a whole nother hour behind the scenes of figuring out what needed to get adjusted. But it's like, that was the difference, is just being able to grow in us seeing really what it is in the moment and not being so quick to just write it off or write ourselves off because of, it just not being fun or it feeling hard.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that's a big takeaway from today. If you're going to take anything from this, take this. Instead of looking at your circumstances as failure, just begin to ask yourself the question, what is this ultimately doing to serve me? I think if you can get your arms around that, gosh, you're light years ahead in your journey, definitely light years ahead of where we've been in the past. So if this resonated with you, if this has been helpful, feel free to share it with a friend. You can also subscribe, do all the things because we're here now doing the thing. And we're so excited to have you on this journey with us. This is just the beginning. We can't wait to have you come along with us. So thanks for joining in.